Welcome to the first ever Straight Path podcast, where we discuss all things financial planning. I'm Dan Cook, certified financial planner with Straight Path Wealth Management, and I'm joined today by the founder of Straight Path, Mr. Matt Boersen. Matt, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
First ever podcast.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I've always wanted to do this. I've always had this vision of having a podcast or a place that we can casually talk about real world problems, send it out to clients and non-clients alike in a way that's easy to understand and fun. Because if there's two things about planning that we know is that it can get very in-depth, very fast, and very complicated to understand. And sometimes it can be boring. So,
absolutely. We joke with our clients. Our office is around a bunch of different dentists. And there was a study that came out years ago that people voted or put on par going to a financial planner right along with going to the dentist, which wasn't, that's not great. That's not great advertising for financial planning. So I think this is great. I think it's awesome.
Awesome. Well, today we're going to talk about you, specifically your background, what you've been up to, and the company itself. But I want to start off, you've been busy. I look at your calendar sometimes and it stresses me out. Some weeks you're in Tennessee, some weeks you're in South America. So catch us up. At the office, you kind of already do that. But tell people that's watching this video, what have you been up to?
Yeah, so for the last almost 5 years, I've served on the board of directors for CFP board. So the organization that certifies the 101,000 certified financial planners across the country. In 2024, I've served as chair of the board of that organization, which comes with a lot of travel and a lot of different responsibilities. Some of those are going to conferences. So I've been at FPA and NAPFA conferences and CEO summits and things like that across the country. And then some of them is going to Washington, D.C., where the organization is headquartered, handling board meetings. And also, you mentioned South America, interacting with the international community. So many people don't realize that there's 101,000 CFP professionals here in the United States. There's actually about the same amount internationally. So there's about 100,000 CFPs even outside the United States, primarily in South America, Asia, Canada, and Australia. So CFP is really becoming a global brand. And so we get to go and interact with CFPs from across the world, and we get to learn from things that are going on in their country, and then they get to learn from us here in the United States, which is where the CFP certification started.
So what has been your favorite place that you've been to so far?
Oh, that's a good question. Internationally, we've had the opportunity to go to Singapore as well as Brazil. Both were great. Rio de Janeiro in Brazil was spectacular. I think that was really, really fun. Spent some time earlier this year in San Francisco, which was great. But CFP board headquarters are in Washington, D.C., and I love going to Washington, D.C. The different national monuments, seeing the Lincoln Memorial at night. Those are all kind of highlights. And so probably Washington, D.C., despite being there maybe the most often, that's probably one of my favorite places to go.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of life experiences that you've been able to get out of it, but also helping those that need it too. And I agree, as a CFP myself, I do see the value in what you learn from it and what you get in the continuing growth that you guys have been doing there. So it's awesome to see that going on. But let's talk a little bit about your background, kind of what got you into starting the firm and the industry in general.
Yeah, so I had the privilege I got licensed my junior year in college. So I had an organization that almost kind of adopted me as a 20-year-old at that point and helped me go through the FINRA licensing processes. And so I sat and passed my Series 7 exam when I was 20 years old. And I started with a firm in Grand Rapids that was really helpful, learned a lot. But they primarily concentrated on variable annuity sales. There wasn't a lot of financial planning that was done as part of that. And I got into financial planning because I wanted to help people. My dad is a tool and die maker. He had a financial planner that I saw him interact with while I was growing up. And I saw the positive impact that financial planning had on his life and on our family's financial future. And so that was really what I wanted to do. And so it wasn't just about recommending products or recommending investments. Instead, it was about the big picture financial planning and help people put the different aspects of their financial life together. That was what I really wanted to do. And so that's when I decided, hey, I need to start a firm that kind of embraces those values and creates a service model around those that helps clients do that and hopefully impacts our clients the same way that I saw the positive impact that my dad had. And so in 2011, I started Straight Path Wealth Management. At that point, I was 22 years old. We started out of the spare bedroom of the house that my wife and I had just purchased. And it was a leap of faith. It took years and years of a lot of hard work to start seeing some of the traction and to see it pay off. But it was a lot of fun, and it allowed me to do kind of what I felt like my calling was, which is help people manage their finances, their holistic financial picture better. And I think that we still kind of embrace those values today.
Yeah. And I definitely think that's one of the reasons why I chose to come here as well. I mean, obviously you hired me on. I didn't just walk in and say, hey, I'm working here now. But seeing the comprehensiveness of what we do from a planning standpoint, I would say we are different than a lot of firms out there. We don't only do the tax planning, we do taxes. I mean, you don't see that very often. There might be a few firms out there that do both. But I think we take a very different approach to it. So on that note, who can we help? What does our process look like? And, if someone is looking for a financial planner, what should they look for?
Yeah. And the reason we added the tax planning and the tax preparation at Straight Path was because we had clients who had other accountants and other CPAs, and they were just struggling to get the proactive planning, right? So people were trying to figure out, well, not just what did my taxes look like last year? What do I owe when it's time to file my taxes? But what should I expect to owe this year, next year, let alone 5 or 10 years down the road? And that was really important to us because especially when we're helping people plan for retirement, there's a lot of really in-depth planning for retirement that can be done that can save people tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, inside retirement. And so when we were trying to partner with CPAs to get some of that information, to make proactive analysis, to make some projections, we just kind of felt like we kept kind of hitting our head against a wall and we weren't making progress. And so that was kind of why we decided that we needed to add the tax planning, tax preparation, and bring a team in-house. And so as we've kind of built that into the service model, it's helped us identify groups of people then that we can serve in kind of our unique service model and who benefits them the most from it. Certainly those in retirement or transitioning into retirement are a key kind of area for us because, like I said earlier, we make good tax planning in retirement makes a huge difference. What people also don't realize in retirement is you have more control over your tax situation many times in retirement than you ever did during your working years. When you're working and you're an employee at a company, you get a W-2 and you've got to report that W-2. When you're in retirement, you've got a lot more flexibility on when you pull money out, where you pull money out, what does the timing look like, what's the taxes of it. And so there's a lot of advanced planning that can kind of go into it. And so people who are getting ready to start making that transition to retirement, maybe within that 7-year time span before retirement, certainly those in retirement are a key place for us. Also, though, when we look at clients that have a little bit more complex tax situations, so maybe higher income earners or business owners, things like that, being able to integrate the tax planning into their big financial picture is also key. For many people, tax advice, financial planning, maybe investments are in there, estate planning, those are all been siloed and they haven't been very well integrated. Even financial planners who say, hey, we do some tax planning, we do some estate planning, it still remains pretty siloed. They're outside professionals. That puts the client having to kind of integrate them themselves. And our goal is to kind of bring those things in because when we do that, it makes it easier for the client, helps the client understand it better. But man, it saves the client a lot of money and we make sure that things don't slip through the cracks.
Yeah, no, definitely agree with you on that. And as far as the tax side of things, I mean, it's just such a value to clients that you don't really see often being discussed. One, because there might be a line that people don't want to cross. Where we have people who are CPAs that are EAs. Myself, I'm going through the EA studying process right now. 1 test left. So cross your fingers out there. Hopefully we can get that all out of the way, but it's just something that is so different than what you see. And I definitely think that is what differentiates us as a firm compared to other firms out there. And we're also, I mean, as you can see, this is a casual discussion. We're pretty casual here too. We're people just like the people that come and talk to us. We're not going to throw jargon at you. We're not going to make you feel uncomfortable. Our whole thing is making you feel comfortable, making you understand what's going on with your current situation and how we can help you get to where you want to be and actually show you the value that's right in front of you from the planning position.
I think that's, we talked about earlier when we were starting that, clients many times or people out there, Americans don't typically enjoy coming to financial planners. And that's not something that's typically high on their list. And I think the reasons behind those is many that you just mentioned there, right? So it feels, there's lots of financial jargon. So people don't understand what's being said to them. They don't understand the complexities of it. They're going into, stuffy offices with people who prefer to wear suits and ties. And that's not how, most of our clients dress. So I think there's all of those different things that we've tried to break down those barriers and make it where people enjoy coming here, see the value, and we make a difference in people's lives. That's intentional. But you're right. Some of that is, hey, we're not in ties and suits very often, right?
And I'll point out that I'm wearing the Straight Path shoes, the custom made shoes we have. So,
yep, it's an important part. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, the financial planning industry is continuing to grow. It's ever evolving, and so are we. What is your vision for the future of financial planning, the future of the firm, and how we fit in it?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And, I think one of kind of the big macro things that we've seen here in the United States is as financial lives have continued to increase in complexity, right? So tax rules have become more complicated, estates have become more complicated, and you've actually had more complexity in the investment world now than we've seen in the past. Now you've got things like private equity and crypto, and more people are trying to get into real estate. There's all of these different things. And one of the issues, and I think maybe 20 years ago, people thought that maybe the internet was going to solve some of those things. People could go to the internet and get some of those answers. Well, if you go Google, really almost any financial question, and you start reading different articles or different blog posts or get on some, different threads, you're going to find that you get conflicting answers. And a lot of times that's because the advice given out on the internet is one size fits all. So, you'll hear, especially big financial personalities, think people that you see on CNBC or Dave Ramsey, they by definition are having to talk to, hundreds of thousands of people at once and give them kind of rules of thumb. Where in reality, for most of our clients, they're at the stage where they need personalized one-on-one advice that's specific to their circumstance. They don't need rules of thumb that because they're 63 years old, this is what all 63-year-olds should be doing. That's very rarely actually the best scenario for our clients. And so they need the personalized aspect of it. And so we've seen a dramatic increase in demand for comprehensive financial planning across the country. Almost every study kind of verifies that and shows that. And so, I think we're going to continue to see the public demanding more and more of that, certainly going away from maybe advisors who are only investment centric and start demanding that comprehensive planning like what Straight Path offers. And so, I think we're going to continue to look at what are the other areas that we can also offer at Straight Path. So we're constantly listening to our clients of what are the other areas of their financial life that they're starting to struggle with, that they wish that we could step in and handle a little bit more. So a prototypical example of that a couple of years ago was estate planning. And so we would we'd look at clients' documents, help determine, were they up to date, were they in the correct place? But the reality is that the majority of new prospects who came to us did not have an estate plan in place. And we would talk to them about the importance of it and talk to them about why they needed to go do it. Even if they're 35 years old, having a basic estate plan in place is vitally important. And what we would find is that it was, it'd be 5 years later and we'd still be reminding those clients, hey, this is really important. Hey, you need to do this. Please do this, soon. And it wasn't a fun thing for people to do. We talk about financial planning not being fun. Going to an attorney and doing estate planning, end of life planning is probably way lower on the list for most people. And so we were able, to work with some software and some attorneys and kind of start being able to more handle that and implement and do some more handholding with clients and handle a lot of that in-house, which has been an incredible value add for clients. And so we've been able to progress with more than 150 clients and getting their estate plans in place that I don't know that we would have been able to do that without some of the services that we developed within the last couple of years. And I think there's going to be other opportunities that probably pop up with that too. We have a lot of clients who are retiring earlier than age 65. And a big issue for retiring earlier than age 65 is insurance. And the insurance marketplace is constantly changing. We have the Affordable Care Act right now, but there's been a lot of changes to that. We don't know what that future of that looks like, over the next 5 to 10 years. And so, being able to be proactive with some of that advice, I think is a key thing too. And certainly technology, will create different opportunities, but it also has the potential to create harm. So we talked about the rules of thumb on, a 63-year-old client trying to figure out what they should do by just Googling. we've seen a lot of people come to us who've gotten really bad advice when they've tried to do it that way. And then we've had to help them kind of back out of it. And so, we'll certainly be, a player where we're trying to continue to grow, continue to get our message across, continue to show value to clients and figure out what are the additional avenues that we'll be able to do that with.
Yep. And I will add to that as well. As far as like what you mentioned on the rules of thumbs, general advice that you see out there, not all of it is necessarily bad, right?
Yeah.
If you're in your early 20s and you're just getting started, you might not need like a comprehensive plan. And one reason behind that is just projecting out what's going to happen in the future. Nobody knows.
Yep.
We can certainly plan year to year and kind of help you out in that way. But those rules of thumbs can help you get started, get you on the right path, the straight path, if you will, and kind of go forward through your life. And then once you kind of get building up and more things come into life, kids, you get maybe a better paying job as well. We can kind of start working around that. So there's definitely different ways out there that we can help.
For many people, as they get older, the stakes get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? You have less time to fix problems or mistakes that you've made in the past. You have, bigger account balances, more complex tax situations. So you're right. There is, for a lot of people, and even in a lot of financial planning categories, some rule of thumbs probably suffice 100%. And then you typically see this progression where the complexity increases, the consequences of mistakes increases. And that's when, many times that's when you need personalized advice as opposed to the kind of broad market-based advice.
Well, that's all I have, Matt. I want to thank you for joining me on the first podcast here, and thank you all for watching today. Just remember, when you plan better, you invest better, you get to live better. We'll see you next time on the Straight Path Podcast.